Guys, of the dais, seniors and friends. Very good morning to all of you. Friends, the topic I'll be speaking on is deposit regulations and bank account under FEMA. But before I begin my presentation, I would like to thank Chambers and in particular International Taxation Committee for having given me an opportunity to deal with this subject, be here and make this presentation. And it is very glading that a lot of youngsters are there today for this particular seminar. Coming back to the topic, friends, let me start with a little background about what I'm going to discuss in the next 70-75 minutes or so. I'll be taking you through deposit regulations, which means acceptance of deposits from non-residents. Thereafter, I'll be discussing what are the remittance facilities available to non-residents, and we'll also be seeing what are the foreign currency bank accounts available under FEMA to residents. What are the facilities available to residents? Now, let me begin with deposits. Now friends, as you are aware, deposit play a very significant role or crucial role for any country or any economy. The foreign exchange strength of any country can be judged from the amount of deposits, foreign currency deposits available in banking system, private sector. So they are very crucial. Now, friends, when we talk about FEMA, there are two kinds of deposits, two categories or two buckets of deposits envisaged under FEMA. One is those accepted by authorized dealers, and another category is those accepted by private sector like companies, partnership firm, proprietary concern, etc. Now, friends, deposit also represent a debt for the entity which takes it and for the country as a whole. So whenever one takes deposit from non-resident, so there is a debt created for a country. And friends, what happens is that we talk about FDI, we talk about ODI, we talk about immovable property. We tend to undermine the importance of deposits. But make no mistake, deposits are crucial, equally important for any country, or for that matter, a country, a developing country like India. Now, another aspect is that deposits are channels or gateway for investment flowing into any country. Basically, the funds come via bank accounts and thereafter they get channelized into various investment forms. So, deposits are crucial. They have to be attractively priced. Country has to offer attractive interest rates so that interest of NRI can be served. Now, let us also talk about what are the bank accounts available to residents under FEMA. Just a background. Now, as a resident Indian, if I were to open a bank account in India, in rupee terms, I don't require any foreign for FEMA permission because I'm a resident. I'm opening a bank account under in rupee terms. But what happens? The scenario changes if I were to open a bank account in foreign currency. As a resident, I want to open a bank account in foreign currency in India. Whether I need to see FEMA framework, whether are there any FEMA regulations in this regard, or for that matter, say for example, if I become non-resident, I take up employment abroad or I do any business abroad, which will make me non-resident under FEMA, so which will necessitate my having to open a bank account abroad. So whether FEMA allows me to do that, what happens to my already existing accounts in India, whether I can continue to hold them, whether I need to inform my bankers, whether I need to redesignate them. So we will all learn as we go along the presentation. Now, whether I can have a joint account facility in my foreign currency account, resident account, nomination facility, repatriability, we will all see as we go along the presentation. Friends, since I'm looking at many youngsters, so when we are dealing with these topics like repatriation or deposits or bank accounts, let us think from practical perspective rather than just taking the theoretical approach. So, say for example, you have a non-resident client, or for those who are in practice, you have a non-resident client, or those who are not in practice, you have a non-resident friend who has got certain surplus funds, who wishes to take your advice. He wants to invest in certain deposits in India. So what are the avenues available to him as a non-resident? And he seeks your guidance on that. So how would you advise him? Or say for example, he's been non-resident, he wants to repatriate certain funds from India. So how would you guide him in those aspects? So it is very important to take a practical perspective. At the same time, we need to be very clear about the theory as well. So with this particular background in mind, let us start with the actual presentation. Like I mentioned, the topics I will be covering is deposit from non-residents, remittance facilities available to non-residents, foreign currency bank accounts of residents, transactions of loans and gifts only to a limited extent because we have got a particular session on borrowing and lending, and then I will also touch upon preparation of financial statements. Now, before we embark upon deposit regulations, let us understand certain key definitions or concepts. I am sure my earlier speaker, I guess Mayur bhai, would have taken you through all these important concepts and definitions. But let us refresh our memories for 5 minutes of what about these definitions. Person. Section 2U of FEMA defines person as an individual, HUF, a company, AOP, EOI, artificial juridical person, agency, office or branch owned or controlled by such person. Now this is very important. Person resident in India. Again, section 2B of FEMA defines person resident in India as a person who is residing in India for more than 182 days during the course of preceding financial year. But the person resident of India does not include a person who has gone out of India or who stays out of India for taking of employment or for doing any business outside India or for any other purpose which indicates his intention to stay outside India for an uncertain period of time. Again, person resident of India does not include the person who has come to India otherwise than for taking up employment in India or for carrying on any business or vocation in India or for any other purpose in such circumstances as would indicate his intention to stay in India for uncertain period of time. The person resident of India includes a person or a body corporate registered or incorporated in India. So Indian company is always a resident in India. Office, branch or agency in India owned or controlled by a person resident in India. Office, branch or agency outside India owned or controlled by a person resident in India. So it is both the ways. Now, person resident outside India is negatively defined, which means that whoever is not person resident in India becomes person resident outside India. Now, we have also gone through these concepts, capital account transactions and current account transactions. These are pivotal concepts which revolve around FEMA. Capital account transaction means a transaction which alters assets or liabilities, including contingent liabilities of a person resident in India in a foreign country, or for assets or liabilities in India of a person resident outside India. Again, current account transaction has been negatively defined. A transaction which is not a capital account transaction is a current account transaction. Now, repatriability, we often talk about repatriability, but repatriability as such has not been defined. There is a definition of remittance of assets under notification 13, which we will deal with in little later. But repatriability means an ability of the asset to be moved from foreign country back to the investor's home country. Now, after this background, let us look at the deposit regulations. Now friends, acceptance of deposits from non-resident is a capital account transaction under FEMA. Section 6 of FEMA talks about capital account transaction. Under 6, there is a subsection 3 which lists certain types of transaction which are capital account transaction, and authority has been given to RBI to regulate these classes of capital account transactions. One of them being acceptance of deposit from non-residents. Again, further an authority has been given under section 47 to RBI to issue notifications to operationalize the law, to make consequential amendments. And as a result of that, RBI has issued notification 10, which is the notification number 5, which is the principal notification on acceptance of deposits. So whenever we are to refer to acceptance of deposits, we need to look at notification number 5 of 2000. Again, this notification has undergone amendments several times. So we will see what are those and what is the latest position. Now, like I mentioned to you, this particular notification talks about two kinds of deposit. One, acceptance of deposits by bankers, and acceptance of deposit by other commercial entities. Now this particular notification starts with certain definitions, so we need to understand those definitions first so that he can understand the provisions in better way. Now deposit under this particular notification has been defined as deposit of money with a bank, proprietary concern, partnership firm, body corporate, trust or any other person. Now friends, so far I have not seen any trust or partnership concern or proprietary concern taking deposit. Generally they, if a partnership firm or a proprietary concern were to take any borrowing, it will be under borrowing and lending regulations. I think you have a separate session on that, so you can deal with that. Again, non-resident Indian, it is again important for this particular notification. NRI means a person who is resident outside India but who is a citizen of India, but who is residing outside India for the purpose of business or for the purpose of employment. However, he is a citizen of India. And NRI for this purpose of this particular notification also includes person of Indian origin. Now we'll see what is the definition of person of Indian origin. Again, person of Indian origin means a citizen of any country but not a citizen of Bangladesh or Pakistan if he at any time held Indian passport, or he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents were a citizen of India, or a person is a spouse of Indian citizen, or a person referred to in subclause A or B. Now friends, these deposit regulations do not apply to certain kinds of deposit because of international conventions and because of certain other reasons. Like, what are those exceptions? Now, deposits maintained by foreign diplomatic missions or their personnel or staff in Indian rupees or in foreign currency in India because of the international conventions, and RBI cannot regulate that. Again, if you look at the C, deposits held in accounts maintained with an authorized dealer by United Nations, its subsidiaries or its affiliates in India. So again, those are not regulated by RBI. Coming back to B, deposits in rupees with authorized deal by person resident in India or Bhutan, because they are not treated as foreign currency account, they are treated in par rupee accounts. So basically these are the three exempted items. I talked about acceptance of deposit by bankers, acceptance of deposit by other entities. Now there is a peculiarity about this particular deposit regulations in the sense that certain deposits can be placed only by non-resident Indians. We saw the definition of non-resident Indians. So certain deposits can only be placed by non-resident Indians and not by others. So foreign national of any other state cannot place certain kinds of deposits. We will see what are those. Now let us see as an NRI what are the deposit avenues available to me with banks in India. So basically banks in India offer three kinds of deposits. What are those? Non-resident external account scheme, which is known as